Respect is not begged for, it is earned. And if a man does not learn this truth, he will spend his entire life seeking approval where he will never get it. Many times it's not that women are unfair, it's just that they simply do not respect someone who offers themselves too easily, who sacrifices their boundaries for attention, who confuses approval with true worth. This is the reality that most prefer to ignore. Not all smiles mean admiration, and not all interest means respect. A man without discipline, without self-control or purpose, is like a building without foundations. It may look imposing on the outside, but the first strong wind will knock it down. Women do not respect the one who gives in to his impulses or the one who abandons his principles to feel accepted. They respect the one who walks with clear direction, the one who does not need to raise his voice to impose himself, the one who can say no without hesitation and move forward without looking back. This is not about becoming tough on the outside or distant out of pride. It's about forging character. To understand that if you seek respect, you must first become someone who deserves it. The real difference is not in pretending strength, but in demonstrating it with actions, in how you speak, how you decide, how you defend your time, how you maintain your path even when no one understands it. These 8 practices are not simple tips, they are daily lessons that will change the way you see yourself and how others see you. Here, you will not find empty phrases to impress anyone. You will find principles that, if applied, will transform your posture, your presence, and your life. 1. Master the art of walking alone. The wolf that learns to hunt alone does not become the strongest by whim of nature, but because by depending solely on himself, he sharpens his senses and strengthens each step he takes. In the pack, anyone can keep up. But the one who walks alone develops the instinct to survive in the open and does not need others to move forward. So should be the man who wants genuine respect, capable of walking without needing someone to accompany him, who does not beg for company to feel valuable, who does not stop out of fear of loneliness, because he understands that strength is not measured by the applause he receives, but by the ability to hold his path even when no one is watching. Walking alone does not mean rejecting others or becoming a hermit. It means not depending on external validation to feel that your life has direction. Too many men freeze because they believe that without someone to motivate them, they cannot move. They constantly seek the recognition of women, friends, family, and end up living in the shadow of others' expectations. This destroys the essence of any man, turns him into someone moldable, fragile to the opinion of others, someone who will never lead his own destiny. Genuine respect does not come from wanting to fit in. It comes from daring to keep pace when everyone expects you to back down. The one who masters the art of walking alone learns to enjoy his own company and to withstand the weight of silence, and in that process discovers something that few achieve: clarity about who he really is. Those who cannot be alone with themselves often flee to others to avoid facing their own doubts. That's why well-managed loneliness does not weaken, it polishes. It is the space where you learn to identify your flaws, where you stop blaming the environment and start demanding from yourself. A man who knows himself thoroughly and feels comfortable with his own presence projects confidence even when he says nothing, because he conveys the serenity of someone who does not need approval to exist. But this practice requires courage. The fear of being alone is the greatest enemy of discipline. It pushes people to settle for empty friendships, weak relationships, and mediocre routines just to avoid facing the silence. This is where Stoicism teaches a key lesson. Do not fear losing what never belonged to you. Fear losing control over yourself. Learning to walk alone means giving up false supports, letting go of those who are only there when it suits them. Stop waiting for others to understand your vision to keep moving forward. Let's make something clear. Walking alone is not a gesture of pride. It is an act of maturity. It is telling the world that your path does not depend on applause, that your goals do not change because someone approves or rejects you. In real life, the respect of others is not given to those who adapt to all whims, but to those who are consistent even under pressure. Because true admiration arises when they see that you are not willing to betray yourself for anyone. Practicing the art of walking alone also means protecting your energy. It forces you to carefully choose who you trust, what you invest your time in, and who you allow into your life. A man who learns to be alone does not fill the void with any company. He selects with criteria because he has understood that loneliness is not a punishment, it is a filter. 2. Make your purpose your banner. A ship without a flag can sail, but it does not inspire trust or respect in the port or on the open sea, because nobody knows to what destination it belongs or what principles guide it. The same happens with a man who lives without a clear purpose. He can move from one side to the other, but his steps lack direction and his presence loses strength. The purpose is that flag that waves even when the wind blows against it, which announces without words where you are going and why you will not abandon your course. A man with firm purpose does not need to raise his voice to be noticed. His sheer determination speaks for him. Living with purpose is more than having goals. It is understanding why you do what you do. Many men believe that their value depends on pleasing others or gaining approval, and they end up being like leaves carried by the wind of other people's opinions. That does not generate respect, it generates pity. Genuine respect is born when others see that your life stands on solid convictions, that you do not break at the first obstacle, and that every step you take responds to a reason larger than the impulse of the moment. That's why purpose is not a nice idea that is mentioned in motivational phrases. It is a beacon that keeps you firm when everything around you wavers. To turn purpose into your banner, you first have to define it with brutal honesty. Ask yourself what truly moves you, not what you think you should desire to impress others. Purpose is not imposed from the outside. It is born from clarity about who you are and what you are willing to endure to get where you want. Take time to write it, not as a vague desire, but as a declaration of commitment. If your purpose does not challenge you to get up even on the hardest days, then it is not strong enough to guide you. The second step is to align your life to that purpose. It's easy to say you have goals. The hard part is adjusting your routine, your habits, and your decisions so that each one of them points to that goal. A man who says he has purpose but wastes his time on constant distractions shows that he really has not made it his own. Get up earlier, invest in learning what you need, limit the time you dedicate to what does not take you anywhere, and surround yourself with people who respect and understand your path. The consistency between what you say and what you do is what makes your purpose visible to others. Also, you must protect it. Do not let the criticisms of those who do not understand your vision divert you. A banner that is lowered at the first insult is not worth it. Learn to be silent about your plans in front of those who contribute nothing and let your achievements speak. This does not mean closing yourself to advice. It means discerning between voices that build and those that only want to divert you. Part of the respect you will get will come from showing that you do not negotiate what you consider essential for your life. Also remember that purpose will not always be popular. There will be those who mock or try to convince you that you are wasting your time, but that's where your discipline and self-control are put to the test. When you continue firm even under social pressure, you show that your purpose is stronger than the need to be accepted. Women and people in general respect the man who has such a clear direction that he does not need validation to continue, because that security is rare and deeply attractive. 3. Control the fire of your emotions. Iron is not forged in lukewarm water, it is molded in fire, but if the heat is not controlled, it ends up deforming the metal until it breaks. So are the emotions in a man. They can give him strength and character if he knows how to master them. But when he lets them burn uncontrollably, they weaken him and make him unpredictable. Many men believe that showing their anger, frustration, or pain without filters is proof of authenticity, when in reality, it is a sign of lack of discipline. Respect does not come from the one who explodes at the first impulse, but from the one who can contain the internal fire and direct it precisely where it is needed. Emotional self-control does not mean repressing everything you feel. It means not allowing your emotions to decide for you. It is easy to lose your cool when someone provokes you. It is simple to raise your voice or let anger escape. But that impulsive reaction is precisely what makes others lose trust in your judgment. A person who does not know how to control his temper generates temporary fear, but never respect. To control the fire of your emotions, you first need to recognize it. You cannot tame something you deny. Learn to detect the signals from your body when anger or anxiety begin to grow, that heat in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the need to answer without thinking. The key is to identify that moment and stop before the emotion takes control. Conscious breathing is a simple but powerful tool. Inhaling deeply and exhaling with intention does not eliminate the problem, but it stops the automatic reaction that so often makes things worse. Another fundamental step is to change the interpretation of what is happening around you. Strong emotions often trigger because you interpret a comment, a gesture, or a situation as a personal attack. Ask yourself if what bothers you really puts you in danger or just hurts your ego. This small mental filter is part of Stoic thinking, differentiating between what you can control and what you cannot, and refusing to give away your peace for what does not depend on you. The man who reacts aggressively to every provocation shows that anyone can move him like a puppet. You also need to learn to channel what you feel into useful actions. If something angers you, use that energy to work harder on what you can improve, instead of discharging it in impulsive words. If something hurts you, turn it into motivation to strengthen your character instead of getting stuck in lament. Emotions are not enemies, they just need direction. When you manage to even turn your anger into discipline, you are closer to being respected because you no longer act on impulse, you act with purpose. Avoid environments and people that feed your lack of control. If you know that certain discussions end up bringing out the worst in you, set clear boundaries. The respect you seek begins with the respect you owe yourself, and that includes not unnecessarily exposing yourself to situations that drag you into losing your composure. True strength is not in enduring everything in silence or in exploding to impose fear, but in withdrawing or responding only when it makes sense to do so. Finally, make self-control a daily habit. Start with small things, like not reacting immediately to messages that bother you, avoiding raising your voice in trivial arguments, training your patience in traffic or in long lines. These simple practices build tolerance and strengthen mastery over yourself. 4. Raise the price of your time. Water is abundant in the river. Anyone can take it without thinking too much. But the diamond is valued because it is scarce and hard to obtain. Your time should be like this, not a resource that anyone can take when they want, but something that is only given to what really deserves your energy. A man who treats his time as if it were infinite ends up being used by everything and respected by no one. On the other hand, the one who protects it and gives it a clear value becomes someone that others dare not waste. Raising the price of your time begins by recognizing its true value. It's not just about counting the hours of the day, but understanding that every minute you give to something that does not add to your life is a minute you will never get back. Many men complain that they do not achieve their goals, but the problem is not the lack of opportunities, but their inability to say no to distractions and people who steal their focus. Every time you give your time to empty commitments, you teach others that you do not respect your own clock. A practical tip is to make an inventory of what you invest your time in. Take a few days to honestly observe how many hours you dedicate to social networks, to meaningless conversations, or to activities that do not contribute anything to your purpose. Only by seeing it clearly will you understand how much you are giving away. Then start cutting the unnecessary without feeling guilty, because if you do not protect your time, others will not do it for you. This cleaning of habits is the first step to raise its value. You must learn to set clear boundaries with others. If you allow anyone to interrupt your routine with trivial problems, unimportant meetings, or requests that can wait, you not only lose productivity, you also lose respect. It's not about becoming inaccessible, but about teaching with facts that your time has priority. Sometimes it's enough not to answer a message immediately or politely decline invitations that you know do not contribute anything. Each boundary you set reinforces the message that your time is valuable. Another essential aspect is to invest your time in activities that strengthen your character and your purpose. If you fill it with directionless tasks, even if you seem busy, you will still be stuck. Dedicate the first hours of the day to what drives your main goals, whether it's training your body, studying, advancing in your work, or cultivating your mind. A man who focuses on the important things from early on projects discipline and firmness, qualities that inspire respect even before he utters a word. It is also vital to eliminate the habit of justifying the loss of time. Many make excuses saying they need to relax, or that tomorrow they will make up for the lost time. But tomorrow does not return the hours you have already spent. Start seeing yourself as a manager of a limited resource. Ask yourself before accepting a commitment if that investment of time will have any return in learning, growth, or peace of mind. If the answer is no, then it's not worth it. They will see that you are not someone available for anything and that your attention must be earned with weighty reasons. This will not only improve your productivity, it will also change how you are respected at work, in relationships, and in social life. Women especially notice when a man does not give his time to anyone because they perceive that this reflects self-worth and a defined purpose. The man who raises the price of his time is not selfish. He is aware that life is finite and that respect begins with the way he treats himself. 5. Speak less and let your actions speak for you. The echo in a cave always repeats the loudest sound, but it never creates anything new. That's how words are when they are used excessively. They make noise, repeat promises and opinions, but they rarely build anything real. Actions, on the other hand, don't need an echo. They leave visible traces that remain even when the noise fades away. A man seeking genuine respect understands that words only have value if they are backed up by what he does. And the more he talks without acting, the cheaper his message becomes. Speaking less doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means using words with precision and purpose. Most men lose respect because they rush to explain, justify, or boast about achievements they haven't even fully consolidated yet. In the attempt to impress with words, they end up revealing weaknesses and contradictions. The first rule for your actions to speak for you is to learn to keep quiet about what is not yet solid, to allow the results to speak before you do. To start practicing it, establish an internal filter before speaking. Ask yourself if what you're about to say adds anything or just satisfies the impulse to fill the silence. If the answer doesn't carry weight, remain silent. This simple habit reduces the number of empty words and increases the impact of the ones you actually pronounce. A man who speaks only when necessary conveys authority and control, and his voice is heard with greater attention because it doesn't get diluted among unnecessary comments. Strategic silence also protects you. When you talk too much, you reveal plans, emotions, and weaknesses to people who can use them against you. Keeping certain matters private is not excessive distrust, it is practical intelligence. Learn not to comment on every step of your personal life or your most important goals. Let your progress speak when it is already undeniable. This way, you avoid other people's expectations pressuring you, and you preserve the freedom to change course if necessary. Another important tip is to observe more than you talk. Those who focus on listening and observing others learn faster and avoid unnecessary mistakes. Stoicism doesn't mean shutting out the world, it means using silence to see things clearly, to capture details that others overlook, and to respond with greater precision. The person who listens more understands their environment better and therefore makes decisions with an advantage. Avoid the habit of over-justifying yourself. Often we try to explain every decision to be understood or accepted, but that only weakens your position. Learn to say what's necessary and stand firm in your choice without feeling the need to convince everyone. Remember, the goal of speaking less is not to become inaccessible or distant, but to make every word you pronounce carry weight. Use silence as a resource of strength, not as a wall. When you need to express something, do it clearly and firmly, without beating around the bush, and accompany it with actions that back up what you said. Nobody respects hollow promises, but everyone pays attention when actions demonstrate consistency. Over time, you'll discover that speaking less saves you conflicts and gives you more energy to act. Others will start to see you as someone reliable, who doesn't need to convince with speeches because their actions back up their words. Women in particular notice when a man doesn't try to impress with phrases, but lets his way of life be the proof of his character. That kind of man doesn't chase respect, he inspires it. 6. Don't negotiate your worth. Gold doesn't ask for a discount to be bought. It maintains its price because its essence doesn't change, even if the market fluctuates. This is how a man seeking respect should see himself, as something whose value doesn't depend on the opinion of the moment or external circumstances. When you start to yield your principles or lower your standards to please others, you lose more than respect. You lose identity. True respect stands firm because it comes from someone who is not willing to auction off their worth for attention or acceptance. Many men fall into the trap of negotiating their value without realizing it. They accept jobs that exploit them for fear of being left with nothing. They maintain relationships that belittle them for fear of loneliness. They tolerate disrespect in the hope of not losing the affection of those around them. If you want genuine respect, this cycle must be broken as soon as possible. The first step to not negotiate your worth is to have clarity about what your principles and boundaries are. It's impossible to defend what you don't know. Take the time to define what things you consider non-negotiable in your life. Respect for your time, honesty, the way you expect to be treated, the type of people with whom you choose to share your energy. These boundaries should not depend on the environment or what others think, but on what you know is essential for your dignity. Once you define these boundaries, you have to learn to communicate them with actions, not just words. It's no use saying you value your peace if you allow anyone to interrupt it. It's no use declaring that you demand respect if you continue to tolerate behaviors that degrade you. The consistency between what you say and what you do is what will show others that your worth is not for sale. If you say no, let it be a no that holds even when the pressure increases. Another important tip is to stop depending on external approval to feel valuable. As long as you need constant recognition from others, you will always be willing to give something up to get it. Self-esteem is built day by day by meeting your own standards, not those of others. Invest time in developing skills, improving your discipline, strengthening your physical and mental health. All of this raises your internal value and reduces the influence that external opinions have on you. Also learn to let go of what is not willing to recognize you. Don't cling to jobs, friendships, or relationships that only remain in your life because you accept less than you deserve. Every time you yield to someone who doesn't value what you bring, you reinforce the idea that your value can be reduced. Being flexible in life is adapting to changes when they don't compromise your dignity, but yielding on the essentials is a betrayal to yourself. Establish a clear point where your answer will always be no, regardless of who asks for it or what promise it brings with it. This kind of firmness makes others quickly understand that with you, the fundamental is not negotiable. When you hold your value firm, you project a different presence. People start to treat you with more care, not because you instill fear, but because they perceive that you are not willing to settle for less than you deserve. Women also perceive this firmness and respect it, because they see that you are not seeking their validation nor yielding your principles to please them. This attitude not only earns you respect, but also attracts those who truly value what you are. 7. Demand more from yourself than from anyone else. The archer who trains by shooting at a fixed target only becomes accurate under ideal conditions, but the one who practices against a moving target and against the wind becomes a true master. Difficulty shapes skill. This should be the relationship you have with yourself, not always seeking comfort, but setting yourself harder challenges than the world will demand of you. Those who settle for the bare minimum end up depending on external circumstances to stay upright. But those who raise their own standard become unshakable in the face of adversity. Demanding more from yourself than from anyone else does not mean becoming your own worst enemy or falling into destructive self-criticism. It means adopting discipline as a lifestyle. Most people seek respect by asking others to change, without realizing that true respect arises when others see the rigor with which you forge yourself. If you demand to get up earlier, work with more focus, keep the word you give even on difficult days, you are demonstrating a strength that few achieve, and that does not need speeches to impose itself. Start by identifying the areas of your life where you have been complacent with yourself. It could be your physical health, your professional preparation, your financial self-discipline, or even the way you handle your emotions. The first step is to recognize where you have let your guard down and re-establish a standard that forces you to improve. If you do not raise the bar, you will get stuck in comfort and never develop the character that inspires genuine respect. Another key aspect is fulfilling the commitments you make to yourself. Many people manage to meet others but fail themselves, canceling their own plans at the slightest obstacle. This erodes self-esteem and projects weakness to others. Demanding more from yourself implies that your word with yourself is worth as much as the one you give to others, that personal goals are sacred, and that you will make the necessary effort to achieve them without depending on external motivations. Discipline also requires learning to endure discomfort. It's not about seeking suffering out of pride, but understanding that growth is rarely comfortable. Getting up when you'd rather sleep, studying when you'd rather distract yourself, training when your body asks for rest, all of this is part of the price you pay to strengthen yourself. The difference between those who earn respect and those who beg for it lies in the ability to do what needs to be done, even when they don't feel like it. Surrounding yourself with people who challenge you also helps maintain high standards. Avoid circles where mediocrity is the norm. Seek environments that inspire you to be better. It's not about competing with others, but using the example of the disciplined to maintain your own level of demand. When others see that you don't accept less from yourself, they start to see you as someone reliable and consistent. Those who measure their progress only by looking outward run the risk of stagnating when they feel they have surpassed some. True demand comes from comparing yourself to what you were yesterday and proposing to be better today, even if others don't see it. This internal focus keeps you moving even when no one is watching or applauding. Over time, this mindset becomes your greatest strength. Those who demand more from themselves don't need to talk about their discipline. Their daily behavior makes it clear. 8. Always keep the exit door open. A golden cage is still a cage, even if it shines on the outside. What keeps the bird trapped is not the color of the metal, but the impossibility of spreading its wings and flying whenever it wants. The same happens with relationships, jobs, and situations in which men lock themselves up for fear of losing what they have. They believe that staying is a sign of loyalty or commitment, but often it is just fear disguised as love or responsibility. A man seeking genuine respect should never stay where he is not valued or allow dependence to turn him into a prisoner. Always keeping the exit door open does not mean running away at the first problem. It means remembering that your freedom is a limit that you do not negotiate. Most lose respect because they cling too much, endure humiliations, tolerate injustices, and sacrifice their principles just to not be alone or not face change. This excessive attachment weakens any man because it communicates that he is willing to accept any deal in order not to lose what he has. Women and people in general notice this lack of options and end up seeing him as someone weak who stands thanks to the approval of others. To keep the exit door open, you must first cultivate your self-sufficiency. A man who is emotionally or economically dependent on others will hardly dare to leave when he is no longer respected. Invest in strengthening your skills, in having your own sources of income, and in building a life that does not crumble if someone decides to leave. This independence gives you the security of staying anywhere because you want to, not because you can't leave. You should also make it clear from the beginning what limits you are not willing to cross. This is not expressed with threats or speeches, but with consistent actions. If someone starts to disrespect you or cross the limits you consider essential, your reaction must be firm and coherent. Another key practice is not to get too attached to material things or external approval. Many people stay in places where they are not happy just for fear of losing comfort, reputation, or status. When you manage to detach from these chains, the world ceases to be a prison and you start to move with greater freedom. Stoicism means just that, recognizing that nothing external defines your value and that you can start over if necessary. Learn to read the signs of wear in a relationship, in a job, or in a social environment. Sometimes we insist on remaining in situations that have lost their meaning just out of habit or for fear of what others will say. The open exit door is the ability to say enough when there is no longer respect, when your presence no longer makes sense, or when staying means betraying yourself. Do not confuse this attitude with fickleness. Keeping the door open does not imply giving up at the first obstacle or abandoning commitments on a whim. It's about not giving up your dignity, not allowing fear to force you to stay where you no longer grow. Staying by choice and not by obligation makes you more reliable and firm, because others know that your presence is voluntary and not a result of dependence. When you live with the exit door open, your attitude changes. You relate with more confidence because you know that you do not depend on anyone to maintain your peace. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.